Eureka High School in Eureka, Missouri, home to the Eureka Wildcats. We have District 1 football going on right now, and our matchup here between the Eureka Wildcats and the MICDS Rams, and we're going to get things started right away here. Brian Garner and Mr. Scott Lotta.
We're tickled that we're here. You know, I got great young men that I get to work with. We're going to come out and do the best we can. But this is an outstanding football team, and Coach does a great job with them. So,
it's just going to be one of those great Friday night football games, and two good teams battling out. So it's going to be really exciting, just to kind of get our two teams on the field and get after it.
Number 12 drops back. He scrambles. He's being pursued, and he's going to get to the end zone. Touchdown! Ooh, they were within a fingernail of getting him for a loss, and then he just escaped down that left sideline for 6 points.
Cool.
Low snap. Quarterback keeper, and he's in! Zigged, zagged into the end zone. 6 points right there. Huge score for the Wildcats.
Great
on this play to start. He wings it. He got a man wide open. And he's got a step. And he's cutting back towards the left. He's going to score. Number 28. Oh, no. Yes, he will.
Henry Oliver.
Whoa, just like that. Lightning strikes, and the Rams go back in front formation. And, again, same play, and this time he pushes through. He just turned around and just let his legs push him right over the pop.
Good drive.
1:29 to go here in the third, and another touchdown on the board for the Rams. And they get it off, but they muff it, and it's picked up, and it's going to be taken all the way. 15. Touchdown. Number 10. Johnny on the spot right there.
Dorian Reddick. Touchdown.
Emmanuel, and there's your signal. 1 yard touchdown run for Emmanuel. And number 2.
There goes more.
He's going to take it to the house. One man to beat, and he goes down the sideline. Touchdown. So the final score, 34-14, MICDS Rams victorious over the Eureka Wildcats.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Upon Further Review. Ray Halbrook, your host here, and we're going to bring in our panel of judges. Guys that have been helping me cover all week and this particular year of football here. Matt Bates in the middle and Jeff Whitener to your right, and everybody's right here. Gentlemen, Matt, it's been a good weekend. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm doing well, all things considered, with construction going on out in front of the parents' homestead up here at the Bates Hotel. But we're getting there. We're chugging along.
Awesome. Jeff, how are you today, sir?
Fine. Coming off a great experience yesterday, broadcasting with Matt and yourself, the St. Louis Spirits thrilling last-minute victory yesterday over the Excelsior Springs Scream. So that was a madhouse of carnival of fun.
We're about to turn the page and head to basketball, but we're going to wrap up the final week for us here, Week 12. Our results are as follows. We'll start with our Friday Night Blitz game of the week here. The MICDS Rams, they get it done 34-14 over the Eureka Wildcats, and we'll chat a little bit about that. Mr. Matt Bates.
Wow, what a doozy. MICDS Country Day just, that's a real nice yard that they play on up there, but this was out at Eureka, and you would have thought they would have had the home field advantage on this, but when you see what Marquette did to Seckman and Cole Rubel, this was almost exactly what Country Day did to Eureka. Kevin Emmanuel, 32 carries, 127 yards. These two, Cole and Emmanuel, were like 1 and 2 in rushing in the area. Marquette held Rubel to 25 carries, 218 yards. In Eureka's game here, and then they go 3 of 10 for passing for 18 yards. So what it tells me is that some of these teams that the deeper you go, they were able to key on. And granted, Emmanuel had 127 yards, but on his 32 carries, that's normally about a 300 rushing day at the office for him. So the Rams figured out something, and again, it could have been something as simple as putting another one in the box, stretching the runs out. But as you see, when you're so one back, one rush dimensional, that you go into about round 3 here, and those teams start figuring stuff out to where, you know, Seckman doesn't have much of a passing game because Rubel is their quarterback. Emmanuel, he's not in a quarterback running back situation, but when you see that they have to break out 3 of 10 on passing for 18 yards, all you're left to do really as a coach is just keep running the ball and hoping something works, because you really don't have a plan B of attack to work with. And as you see, as we're going to talk about in the Hillsborough game, you're able to rush, but you're able to rush 4 or 5 different running backs and break out an alternate game if you need to. Jeff, your thoughts on this?
Well, that's exactly right, Matt. I mean, unfortunately, once you get to this level of district and then now on to state competition, the defenses are so good and so talented and are so athletic that if you have a guy who is your primary source of offense, and as you mentioned, Emmanuel was 127 of those 236, I think, total yards the Wildcats had. And it allows you to focus on him and put resources on stopping that main threat, yet still provide enough coverage to take away the passing game, to take away any other threats. And unfortunately for Eureka, they were a bit exposed when they got to this point. It worked well in the regular season against regular competition, but once you get to this level, it hurt. And the same thing with Seckman. I mean, Seckman's offense was Cole Rubel. Everybody knew that. They dared you to stop them, and most people couldn't. And it wasn't until you get to this level with that, many quality athletes that they're going to find a way to limit the damage there and succeed.
Agreed. I agree with that. My take on that whole thing is we took a look at the top 2 all season long. We were following them quite a bit, and you take a look at the next 3 or 4 or 5 scorers in the area, and 2 of those were from MICDS. So kind of flying under the radar a little bit, but kind of having that 1-2 punch kind of makes a big difference. Within the outcome, especially of this week's game. So kudos to the MICDS Rams, and they will move on. Go ahead.
We'll keep going here. But when you look at the top 2 rushers, when you look at Rubel and Emmanuel, they were the only 2 rushers that rushed for over 2,000 yards this season. When you get to your area rushers, you got to now go to number 7 in the area, Parkway Central's DJ Burgess, who has 1,500 yards. The next one behind him is Stephen Hall from MICDS with 1,562. So it goes to show that, you don't have to be like the top or even in the top 5 in rushing, where you're able to have like that balanced attack. And so, once again, when you're down to like number 7, number 8 in the area now in your area rushers. So yeah, having that balanced passing attack to go with it, I think speaks volumes. So off we go.
Absolutely. Next game here are going to be the CBC Cadets 42 and the Marquette Mustangs 7.
This was just classic CBC. They rushed 31 rushes, 216 yards, had 189 yards passing. So, collectively it was modest, but they racked up 42 points against this Marquette defense. And it really just goes to show that, they're a number 1 ranked team for a reason, as collectively they had 14 rushes for only 33 yards. So the defense held the rushing game in check. And we had seen Jack Albrand and the passing that he can get done. And he was only 16 of 40 for 269 yards. So, yeah, granted, he almost threw for 300 yards, but he wasn't even 50%. So CBC definitely was shutting down the passing and the running game. And, those two things equate to a CBC win, and they'll move on to play Liberty North Saturday at 1 o'clock.
And that's going to be the number one team in the state, the Liberty North, ranked against the number two team, CVC. That's going to be quite the battle. But Matt, it plays right back into what we were talking about here in the diversity on offense. CBC, too many weapons, too many athletes, too much talent. You've got three guys in the backfield there, two of which are already committed to Division I schools for CBC. Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame commit. The other back, I can't think of his name at the moment, the Southwest Missouri State. And then the other back, the younger back, is he's already gotten offers, D1 offers as well. So too many options to key on one guy. Those stats, those guys' level, they're up there, but they're not the top like you talked about, where you have the one-dimensional offenses with the Emmanuel and with the Rubel. So that's the CBC is a perfect example. They've got that three-headed monster in the backfield, and it's just too much to cover.
Well, you have them taking on 9-3 Cape Central, and normally you would say like a team with 3 losses. Again, that's kind of a smoke and mirrors record, because they lost to Hillsboro 47-7, they lost to Park Hills 41-20, and they lost to Jackson 42-14. So, I mean, even though Cape Central's a Class 5 team, when you look at the teams that they've lost to rack up those 3 losses, outside of Jackson, who got stunned, Hillsboro is still in the semifinals. Park Hills still in the semifinals. So the 3 losses by Cape Central, it again kind of smoke and mirrors going up against this MICDS Rams team. But I think Cape Central the Tigers should be able to give the Rams a decent fight in this one.
Cape Central is really interesting, guys. Cape Central started the season 2-3, and that third loss was at Jackson. And that loss really, they took that loss to heart. They had some team meetings, and they were able to use that as inspiration to kind of turn around their season down there. And, they're a team that's trending upwards. Unfortunately, they're going to have a tough road at MICDS. If the game was played in Cape Central, it might be different, but it's going to be tough to overcome those Rams.
Absolutely. Moving on to our next game here, and we've kind of gotten ourselves jumbled up. We didn't really mention the Park Hill Central game here over Valley Catholic, but the shocker there, 30-21. And thoughts, I guess, just on that particular game.
This, as I said last week, the coaches in that bugaboo of facing a team a second time, and this was, and Central played Valley toughest, closest. Their margin of victory was only 10 points. This was a 40-30 ball game. And I was like, did Central learn something? Did they see something? Did they figure something out? Basically, they stood in the ring, with the champ. I mean, this was like watching Ali and Foreman go at it, as this was a 21-17 Valley lead going into the end of the third quarter. Valley decides they're going to kick a field goal. It gets blocked, and there's a 91-yard blocked field goal return by Central to make it a 23-21 ball game. And that was the punch right to the jaw that Valley, who we talk about week after week, when you see a model of a football team, they do everything well, whether it's snaps, whether it's special teams, whether it's just executing a handoff or a pullout on a read option. You've got to find a mistake. You got to find a weakness. And the one time Valley makes a special team snafu, costs them 6 points and essentially costs them the ball game and their season, Jeff.
Well, Matt, and we've talked about Job Smith at North County all year, but it's time to talk about another Job, and that's Joe Bryant at Park Hill Central. Joe Bryant is one of the best basketball players in the MAAA down there. And for Park Hill Central, this kid is a dynamic athlete, but he is now amongst the leaders in scoring, and I believe he is now tied with Job Smith with the extra game in there, of course. But Joe Bryant, 3 touchdowns. He returned the blocked field goal for a touchdown. And what was more impressive to me in that situation and in that kind of that tough weather, that the Rebels forced 5 turnovers on Valley Catholic, and that's almost unheard of. So kudos to them.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next game here. Cardinal Ritter 30, U City nothing. And Cardinal Ritter just continuing to keep that train running over there, Matt.
I had that game at 54-8, but either way,
Right. No, you're correct, Matt. That was when we had that was an incomplete score. We couldn't get anybody to report that night.
But Cardinal Ritter, again, I mean, it's kind of like the same thing we say with Valley, which was, Cardinal Ritter does what Cardinal Ritter does. 54 points hung up on U City. The Bombers did what they could, but they only mustered up 231 yards of offense. And I say that because Cardinal Ritter only rung up 382 yards of total offense. But they just, once again, was just dynamite in small packages that the fields that they were given to work with, they made the most of it. The shocking thing for me is, as now Cardinal Ritter is going to play Central now. Cardinal Ritter has only given up 48 points all year. Now, let me reiterate that. You're going in like week 11, and this is a team that's not even averaging a touchdown. They're averaging like a field goal and a safety at best. And since the Hillsborough game, which is only 3 games, they have outscored their opponents collectively 162-8. I'll let that sink in for a little bit. Yep. 162-8. Central's going to have their work cut out.
Yeah, there's a reason Cardinal Ritter is the number 1 Class 3 team in the state. Absolutely. And as good as Park Hill Central was last week, they have not faced a team like Cardinal Ritter.
All right, moving on. Our next game here, Duchesne 31 and Brentwood 18.
Love me some coach over there at Brentwood, Coach Trey. Great guy. 10-1, finishes the year 10-2. 277 total yards of offense. Duchesne was just too much to handle. Brentwood did score 12 points in the last quarter to, they didn't quit, kept the fight going. But I'll tell you what, he is so upbeat. I love his mannerisms. When we did the game for Brentwood and DeBerg, he was just so ecstatic about the coverage. Same way for Coach Stewart up at Marquette. And I would tell you right now, if I could put the pads on one more time, I would love to strap it up and play for those 2 coaches. That was a fun time.
And we would pay money to watch that, Matt.
I know.
It's funny because, we've talked about, and we have seen, Ray and I have witnessed the growth and improvement of Duchesne the last few years. And you could see as they played a lot of young athletes as freshmen and sophomores, how by the time those guys got to be upperclassmen, they were going to be dominant. And we've seen that evolution take place. And it'll be really an interesting matchup. Portageville at Duchesne. Now, Portageville is no team to sneeze at down there. This is their first district title in Class 1 since 2002. And unfortunately, they have to travel to Duchesne. But both of those teams were not top 10 rated Class 1 teams in the state this year. They were both just out of the top 10. So this should be an interesting matchup. I wouldn't call Duchesne a Cinderella story, but Portageville kind of is in their resurgence as a program. So this could be a very interesting game up at Duchesne.
All right.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Moving on to our next game here, St. Mary's 48, Rockwood Summit 3.
Man, this was just St. Mary's taking care of business. Again, you see the score 48-3. This, again, playing at home, having the benefit of that home field advantage. And this was that early 6 o'clock start. Rockwood, again, Their only other game of relevance that we would have had was their 14-2 loss against Marquette early in the season. So you had a Class 4 team hanging in there with a Class 6, and you thought they would have given St. Mary's at least a little bit more of a fight, but St. Mary's is just showing just exactly how tough they are at that number one spot.
Right. It's St. Mary's is I really truly believe even as a Class 4 team that they could give MICDS a run, they could give CBC a run in our area and for their money. And I really think that they're one of the most dominant teams. And Hillsboro, we followed these athletes of the Hawks. They're from our original coverage area. We know these kids, and we'd love to see them succeed. But man, it's going to be David and Goliath having to go into St. Mary's, which is a pretty hostile environment to begin with. Herculaneum found that out last year in districts, and it's going to be really tough sledding, to use your phrase, Matt.
Yeah, and we round out our final game of the season that we'll talk about here. Let's just stay here locally. How about Hillsboro 55, Festus 6, Matt?
That romaine salad and that PB sandwich. This turned actually into just a heavy dose of romaine salad and a Jackson Patterson, and they give you 34 rushes collectively as a team, and a yard shy of 400 on the day. I mean, wow. that is putting the work boots on as Patterson and Romaine. Those two guys, they collectively rushed for 300 plus. So you look at a modest passing game of 3 of 5 for 69 yards. But this goes back to what I was saying, though, to where you don't have just one back going 34 rushes for 399. You're rotating in Jackson Patterson. You're rotating in Austin Romaine. And, that is being punched in the face by a fresh new face. You're not running like a Rubel or an Emmanuel 32, 35, 40 times right at you. You're getting a fresh new back in about every other play, to where, having been on the defense before, where I can tell you if I'm tackling the same maybe like little running back, 25 times during a game, that's one thing, because we're both wearing down just the same. But when you start rotating in fresh backs at me as I'm tiring out throughout the game, that just makes it that much more tougher, because every dynamic now you have for the different running back that comes in. And so help me, like if they throw in another back that comes in at you like a Mike Maloney, I mean, you just keep punching with fresh new faces, and as a defense, that just wears you out.
Well, Matt, you're exactly right. When you look at also the fact that Austin Romaine only had to rush the ball 13 times in the game, when you're as a running back, when you're only getting that many touches, that's so important because of the critical role that he plays on defense for the Hawks as well. And that allows him to do what he did. He had 11 tackles in the game. Hillsboro's defense, 6 quarterback sacks. I was totally wrong in my prediction about this game. I thought this game would be much closer than it was. But they were able to cover all of Festus's receivers and still put pressure on the quarterback. And it's just, too many athletes doing too many things. And, these guys live to fight another week, which I got to love. And I want to give a shout out as well to our friend of the show from 253, Canyon Stout, with the big interception in that game. And Sikarsky also with an interception in that game. So, it got to be a point where they built up enough of a lead where the defense could just pin their ears back and go. And there was no way no way for Festus to overcome that and come back.
So let's chat real quick, Mr. Jeff, Mr. Ray, that if you're Coach Saharsky, is your best plan of attack then, would you say, like, your key to the game would be keeping that Hillsboro offense on the field, whether it's just in a rushing capacity, but chewing the clock and keeping St. Mary's off the field?
It's all about ball control.
It's all about time of possession and ball control when you're the team that is the underdog. The problem is, I would say normally for Hillsborough, that could be a problem because they score so quickly on the run because they're so efficient, but they haven't gone up against St. Mary's defense. So that's going to slow down those yards per carry quite a bit. And Hillsborough, they've got some dynamic athletes. They've got some great weapons, but man, I don't know if they can match up with the overall team speed of the Dragons. And I think that's going to make it really tough for them. And I hope better. We've got some of our guys on that team that play multi-sports, and we certainly know them through their 253 Legion Ball in the summertime and the Jackson Patterson and the Canyon Stout. And I want those guys to keep playing. Personally cheer for them, but it's going to be tough.
Tough sledding.
Do you think that maybe seeing Cardinal Ritter and playing them a couple weeks ago, if you're the Hillsborough Hawks, might set you up for a speed game to where you kind of got like maybe an early snapshot of what a team like St. Mary's could bring to you?
I think it helps experience-wise to know what you're up against as you're going into it. But I don't think you, at the end of the day, have enough team speed to be able to scheme to cover it all.
I agree with that. I mean, I think St. Mary's and Cardinal Ritter, they're very similar, looking teams. Gonna try to score fast, score often. But this is a whole different ball of wax here, guys.
Because this seems to me like because if Hillsborough can't give St. Mary's short field positions, they've got to make sure you're right with the ball control, but like in all aspects, like don't turn the ball over with the ball control. If you can't turn the ball over like at your own 30-yard line and give St. Mary's only 30 yards to work with. I think that Hillsborough, if they're not going to score on drives, they at least have to pin St. Mary's at least deep back in their own end to give them at least a full field of turf to work with.
All right, we're here to close things out, and before we do, we want to give a lot of thanks and shout-outs, and I'm going to give, we mentioned here just shortly here, we're just awesome to be able to cover the soccer team for DeBerg, DeBerg with a 3-0 win over Brentwood last night, and we were able to cover that, so we appreciate the chance to do that, and congratulations to the Berg Cavaliers. And so that's my shout out for right now, but give you guys a shout out here, Matt.
Well, first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to you, to Jeff, to Coach Woody, and to Scott Lotta. This was a play on words, but this was a lot of fun. I'm glad that was given the opportunity to be a part of the team. I appreciate the work that Jeff did behind the scenes as well. Production work across the board at the games. So, I mean, my first big shout out would be to you, Ray, and the staff here at Livestream STL. Was just that was great to get behind the mic again to do some football, and thank you for the opportunity with that. Second shout out I'm going to give to Brett Tebow. Thank you for following us. Thank you for keeping us up to date on the status of Eli as we follow him through his career down at DeSoto. Thank you to Debbie Capper, former HHS alumni with us, following us out in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you, Amy Wilson, down in Texas.
Amy.
Yep, shout out to Amy. Props to her. Thank you for following us. So again, friends, family from all over, tuning in, joining in, and so that's my shout outs. That's my kudos, and thank you to everybody for following us this year.
Jeffrey.
Well, I'd like to, follow up and back at you, Matt. You've been a great addition to the team, and we're certainly glad to have you here, and hoping that we have a chance here in the very near future to work together on some more basketball coming up. We've got plenty of high school, college basketball, and of course the Spirits are still in full swing, and we'll even have some 3-on-3 tournaments coming up here for the Spirits as well. But back to Ray DeBerg soccer, big win, 3-0. They're going to have a tough battle. St. Francis Borgia coming up. This is the Class 1 state semifinal. That's going to be played at 10 a.m. on Saturday out at the soccer park in Fenton. So, folks, you want to see some great soccer, go on out to the soccer park here in the area. It's going to be a good time. And I want to give one more shout out to a former 253 player who I got to know real well, former Hillsboro standout, and that's Grant Beck. And Grant Beck was the type of player that second baseman, he's the kind of guy that does all the little things on a team to win. That has been valued throughout his college career as he has advanced and played baseball from starting at the JUCO level on up to where he's at now and playing at a four-year university. And he has been named the new coach of the junior Legion team that's going to be formed out of Hillsboro now. He is going to be the new head coach. So congratulations to Grant Beck. Great young man. Looking forward to working with him some more.
Absolutely. And don't forget, we don't want to miss out on, don't forget Hal Neisler been with us at the beginning of the season as well. So Hal's off to bigger and better things over at KJFF as well, back over at the radio station. So congrats to Hal and taking over there as the I believe he's the sports director over there now. So appreciate that, and appreciate the parents that have tuned in week in and week out, coaches that have come in, coaches that we bug all the time, to get in here and get on the airwaves to be able to be interviewed and things like that. And I know they take time out of their busy schedules. So thank you all again. We appreciate everybody tuning in this year for football, and for us here at Upon Further Review. For Matt Bates, for Jeff Whitener, myself, Ray Halbrook. Have a great evening.